A person who asks questions is a person who is after knowledge and understanding and wisdom. And we're going to talk about that later. Those three pillars are the pillars in which you build your life. You build everything on those three pillars. David taught Solomon this principle, and Solomon taught us this principle, in which we'll look at later on. Hey, we got a great topic here today. I just entitled this as I'm ignorant. Wow. I know that'll probably cause some of you to like, what? It did for me. I was listening to one of my mentors, and he made that statement about himself. And when he said it, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I can't believe that you said that. I mean, the guy has written over 1,000 books. He's traveled every nation on the globe, sharing his information, his wisdom, his insight, created multiple training programs, and he's looked at as a father of the faith, as an icon. And he gets on the camera and says, I need to learn so much because I'm just ignorant. And here's what I want you to get from that statement from such a brilliant man. What he was saying, because I know him, he doesn't believe he's ignorant, like deep down in his heart. But here's the nugget I want to give you today. Masters don't think they are. I want that to settle in your heart and in your mind today. Masters don't think they are. Amateurs think they're professionals. Professionals don't think they are professionals. They think they're amateurs. See, what we got to realize in our life is that we have to have the mentality that I've never arrived, that I'm always in a process of evolving and becoming the person that I'm supposed to become. And I find it interesting that Solomon was taught this, actually by his father. The importance of always learning and increasing in knowledge. And how doing this and positioning yourself as, wait a minute, I don't want to have a big ego and think I know everything. People with big egos who think they know everything, those people generally have a small bank account. Yeah. The bigger the ego, the bigger that says, hey, I know everything. The smaller the ego, that person says, man, I don't know everything and I still need to learn. So what did I learn from one of these icons? Father of the faith. He's 80 years old, but he's still learning. He's still growing. He still studies. He still reads. And David taught this to his son Solomon. I mean, Solomon, unequivocally, one of the top 5 richest men in the history of the world. He said this, he said in Proverbs 1 verse 5, he says, a wise man will hear and increase in learning. I want to say that over. A wise man will hear and increase in learning. One more time. A wise man will hear and will increase in what? Learning. And a man of understanding will obtain wise counsel. I want you to think about this. 4 things, right? We glean from this scripture. Number 1, listen. Number 2, learn. Number 3, get a coach. Number 4, ask a lot of questions when you're in the presence of somebody great. You see, my friend, there's 3 ways to learn. A wise man will what? Increase in learning. There's 3 ways that we can all learn in life. I call it M, M, and M. We can learn through our mistakes, which is very painful. It's the worst, absolute worst way to learn. Number 2, we can learn through mentors. And number 3, we can learn through money. That's right. If we can't get the mentors that we need, we can use our money to buy courses, to buy books, to buy trainings, to go to conferences in order to retract or acquire the knowledge, the understanding, and the wisdom that we need to not be ignorant. And this is so very important that you grasp this understanding that you have got to be a person that is hungry to increase your wisdom by being a person who is continually hearing and learning, getting the coaching that you need, and asking questions. Asking questions. A person who asks questions is a person who is after knowledge and understanding and wisdom. And we're going to talk about that later. Those 3 pillars are the pillars in which you build your life. You build everything on those 3 pillars. David taught Solomon this principle, and Solomon taught us this principle, in which we'll look at later on. Very important. And so when we look at this dynamic of asking questions, a person who doesn't ask questions is a person who thinks they know everything, number 1, or it's a person who's been pushed down by, when they did ask a question, they were humiliated. And so now they have an internal thing that says, don't ask any questions, because asking questions equals humiliation and pain. I get amazed so many times when I'm in a training session and I have a whole time, every training session I have, with leaders around the world, training my coaches, raising up Christian entrepreneurs. I'll always have a time of question and answer. And it's so amazing how hard it is to get people to ask questions. And it all stems from your childhood. Because your parents would say something, right? And then you'd say, why? You ask a question, great question. Greatest question you could ask. Why do you think that way? And what do your parents do? They humiliate you. They put you down. That's a ridiculous question. Stop asking me questions. Just listen to what I say and follow what I say. And what do we know as we get older? Well, we look at our parents' lives and we say, wow, your life didn't work out too well. And when I was a kid, you're trying to cram what didn't work in your own life down my throat. make me think like you thought. And when I look around at the world, I look around at the world and I see 95% of the world who bought into the same thought process, the same belief systems that you had, and their life stinks. Let me give you a chunk of wisdom, my friend. If you want to succeed in life, here's a great principle to hang your hat on. Look at what everybody else believes. Look at their habits. Look at how they talk. And do the exact opposite of what 95% of people in the world are doing. And you will find your path to success. It's as simple as that. If you're a Christian entrepreneur, a business owner, a professional in the marketplace, this is important for you. Look at what are all the businesses in my particular sphere. What are they doing? And write down everything they're doing. And then you look at that list and you say, wait a minute. What if I do the opposite? Because they're not getting, 95% of them are not getting fantastic results. Now, if I do the exact opposite, I'll succeed. It's kind of like I teach people that you can learn, you can get wisdom from both a bum and a billionaire. Both you can gain wisdom from. That's why I talk about asking questions. You should go ask a bum some questions. Ask a person who's homeless, hey, how'd you get here? How did this happen? And at the same time, you should also go and ask some billionaires some questions. Shame, 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 shame on you if you're in the presence of somebody who is more advanced in your life and you don't come with, hey, wait a minute, I got some questions that I need answered. And some of you just aren't doing that because you were shut down as a child and you have a wrong internal belief systems about asking questions. But asking questions is the key to obtaining the knowledge, the understanding, the wisdom that you need to solve some of your problems, to take you, your life, your business, your ministries, your expert empire to that next level. Because there's something you don't know that's stopping you, that's keeping you stuck. I find this, so many things in our childhood go into our adulthood. And it's quite interesting. I was thinking this morning, I had two really close friends come and stay with me. Of course, I've had lots of them. One of the things that I do is I like to spoil leaders who've been out on the battlefield. And so I have several leaders who come out of town and visit me. I had two of them that came to my mind. One of them is in his high 70s. Amazing man. This man is, I think he wrote, I think 30 plus best-selling books. The guy's traveled the world too. The guy's a multimillionaire. Amazing, amazing thought leader. And he came and he hung out with me, I think, for 3 days. And I was sitting there, I'm like, this is an elder. So I had questions. Before he came, I sat down and said, what are the questions that I want to ask him while he's here? And I had these questions written down. So I had all my questions. And then he comes, but he's asking me all these questions. You got this leader that is an icon, and then you got like me, who's I still consider myself an emerging leader, right? The two different types of leaders. And so he's coming to learn, hey man, what's this young guy? I mean, I know I'm not really young. What's this young guy know that I don't know? And I'm like, hey, I want to know, I want to know what you know. Because you've been down the path that I'm operating in right now, and I want to know any landmines. I want to know of anything that some quicksand ahead, some storms ahead. What can I do? What do I need to guard myself against? What's some strategies that you had? What are some things you see as you view me? I had all these questions like I wanted to have answered. And yet I couldn't get my questions in because he's asking me all these questions. I'm like, wait a minute. I want to get. And so there was a battle of questions between two, quote, ignorant men. Now I had another friend come. And we hung out together for 3 days. Drove him around, took him great places to eat, took him out on the water. We took him for drives in my Corvette, spoiled him. And for 3 days, the guy never asked me a question. Never. I would consider him, just from where he's at, I would consider him basically poor. Now, he would never consider himself that, but I would consider him poor. So he's with me for 3 days. I'm not exaggerating. Never asked me a question, but wants to tell me all of his revelations. So in 3 days, I got about 1,000 sermons preached at me. You tracking where I'm going. A wise man does what? Listens. And increases in learning. A man of understanding does what? He obtains wise counsel. What do you do when you get counsel? You go in and you ask questions. So the wise person actually is the question asker. The ignorant man, the man who has a big old ego, is the one that gets around people and they think they know everything. So my question is, which one are you? Are you a person that has an internal hunger for knowledge, understanding, and wisdom? My friend, I wasn't like born this way. I wasn't born in an environment of learning. At my house, we didn't have a bookshelf. I didn't have a model where I had parents who were continual readers, where I saw a father sitting at a chair reading a book, or a mother sitting at a chair reading a book. I was raised by majority of my life by two people who didn't even graduate high school. And so I didn't have that model in my home. Because I was raised with people who were more in construction. My grandparents, my one grandpa, he was into insulation, so he was more of a construction guy. He didn't graduate from high school. Another grandpa, he graduated, but then he went the whole traditional route of go to school after high school, then go work for the factory, and he went and worked for the International Harvester, and he punched the time clock, man. He carried his black pail. He punched the time clock. He traded his time for money for 30 years of his life. And so whatever he did, I don't know what he did, but whatever he did, he went there every day, did his thing, and came home. He didn't have to learn. He didn't have to grow. He stayed the same. So I had no models. And when I was in kindergarten, I flunked kindergarten, and the teacher told me I was a slow learner. So the truth is that just really nobody sat down with me and took time to say, hey, reading is important, writing is important. Let me teach you how to read. Let me teach you how to write so you're ready for school. I just didn't have that. And not knocking, I just didn't have it. And so, but that birthed a belief in me, right? That, oh, wow, I'm a slow learner. And what I kind of thought was, I'm ignorant. I'm stupid. So by the time I was in the 4th grade, I could barely read, barely write. They got me a tutor. They tutored me a little bit. I got a little better. It helped. But basically, up till the time I was 24 years old, I'd never read a book from cover to cover. Never. And then I surrendered my life to God. And when I surrendered my life to God, I read Joshua 1 verse 8. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night and observe to do all that is written. Then you will make your way prosperous and you will have success in life. I'm like, I read that. And I could barely read it and barely understand it when I first read it. But when I read that and I talked to my girlfriend, who now is my wife, I said, does this scripture really, am I reading this right? I don't know. I said, this scripture tells me that if I stay in this book and I read it and I meditate on it and I put my actions to doing it, this book says I'll become successful. And my girlfriend looked at me. She says, that's what it means. And I said, well, I'm going to read it every day then. I want to be successful. I don't want to be a loser. I've always wanted to be a success. I've been around losers enough of my life. I don't want to be a loser. I want to win. I want to be successful. I want to be like God. Can we say that? Yeah, like God. And I started my journey. And it's never stopped. Today, I'm just saying me, today, I am still hungry and thirsty to learn more. Today, in my psyche, I still don't think that I've arrived. I haven't. Why? Because the difference between men and women, are the people that they admire. And the people I admire are way ahead of me in life. Way ahead of me in life. And when I get around them and I get in their presence and I'm exposed to the way they think, the way they operate, I position myself not as the mentor, but I position myself as the student. And I always remain a student. I've had other people say to me, because they know who I am, and they see me in a conference. And they're like, and I don't think it's anything, but they see me and they'll come up and they'll say, I watched you this whole conference. I'm like, yeah? They said, number one, you sat on the front row. You have a notepad out. You're taking notes. The entire conference. Most people don't come to. Most people they come, they speak, they leave. But you're sitting there. You're learning. You're taking notes. That is really impressive to me. Other leaders say that to me. And I'm like, Proverbs 1, 5, and 6. A wise man increases in learning. Like I said in the beginning, I can learn from a bum. I can learn from a billionaire. I can learn from a bum what not to do. I can learn from a billionaire what to do. And the study of those two is called wisdom. It's called wisdom. You get wisdom from looking at the lazy man and his garden is a wreck. And you look at the successful farmer who's growing amazing crops, who keeps his eye on his field every single day and works his field every single day. You look at the guy who's sitting around idolizing basketball players, idolizing football players. They're more addicted to sports than they are reading a book. And you see their poverty. And you look at the guy who doesn't really give a rip about all that, but is building a business. Instead of idolizing them, he's becoming. He's building his own empire. You begin to see wisdom is this thing of discerning between right, wrong. I don't want to be the lazy man. I don't want to be the lazy man. I don't want to be addicted to entertainment. Smoking up that entertainment joint. Addicted to it. I want to be addicted to learning. Addicted to growing. Addicted to becoming the person I'm supposed to become for my God-given assignment. I hope you've enjoyed this.